Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wa salamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam ajma'een. Uh, Again, this is another session we have with our brother Imam Saafir Rabb Sr. We're going to continue with the series of just, discussing Islam, the history of Islam, and the evolution of Islam in America. Um, our brother Imam Saafir Rabb Sr. has been around for a long time in Baltimore in particular. And we just want to continue where we left off week before last. And Imam, assalamu alaikum first off.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And when we left off, we were discussing the transition from the what we call the Nation of Islam, right? And
Yes.
into Sunni Islam. And I asked the question of what's the difference between the old nation under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the current nation under Minister Louis Farrakhan. And you were kind of delving into that area. Inshallah, if you want to kind of pick up there and kind of explain what you were saying, and then we'll just kind of branch off in other questions, inshallah.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. When we began to follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we looked at him as though he was the representative that the creator of the heavens and the earth sent to the American so-called Negro. The reason why I said so-called Negro was because that was the language of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said we were not Negroes. We were the original man, the original people of the planet Earth. We had been separated from the knowledge of ourselves, and the Creator sent him, meaning Allah, to restore us back to our original selves. He said, we've been separated from our language, our culture, our religion, our land, everything, when we were taken from Africa and brought to America. So America was going to be punished for the wrong they had done to a whole nation of people. He quoted the Bible, and he says, can a man rob God? And then the answer in the Bible said, yes, you have robbed me of a whole nation of people. He said the nation, that the American so-called Negro was that nation that the devil robbed from God. And when he said devil, he meant the white man. Mm-hmm. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it clear to us that he was not teaching us religion. He was giving us a wake-up message. He said, I am preparing you for one to come after me who will teach you the religion. And when he comes, he'll make all things new. He won't use anything that I'm telling you. He said, naturally, after using the thing, you can make a better make of it. And that's the way he used the term of the Godheads. He was still speaking that symbolic language. So he says, if one God does a thing, he naturally can make a better make of it when he comes to restore or take over the mantle of leadership. So we look forward for one to come. We didn't know who he was. We just knew that he would take the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's place and he would make all things new. But now, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad actually passed away on February 25th, 1975, Imam Muhammad, who was his son, was the one who was universally recognized as the one to take his place. And it was a shocker to a lot of people who were followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, especially Minister Louis Farrakhan. He was his national representative, and he represented the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad very, very well. but he couldn't make the transition.
Mm.
And he actually followed or accepted the leadership of Imam Muhammad for about 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just become a direct opponent.
Mm.
He never was really an opponent. He always respected Imam Muhammad. And when after 3.5 years, he went to Imam Muhammad and says that I feel as though I need to go back and do something for those who are still lost in their understanding of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with respect to what you are teaching now.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and I believe I can help them make the bridge to come to the new theologies that you were giving us. And I'd just like to point out something about that theology of Imam Muhammad at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, it was a transitional theology, meaning he was bringing us to the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad. He was bringing us to the revelation of the Quran that was revealed through Prophet Muhammad. But he wasn't using any of the traditional methods. He didn't use anybody else's method. He didn't quote anybody or anything else except the Quran and his interpretation of the Quran. And the way he made the transition with us, because he knew the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad intimately. He was raised on it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what y'all walking around here calling supreme wisdom, knowledge, and understanding was just bedtime stories to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as he could go into what we thought was superior knowledge and show how it was pointing to Prophet Muhammad and the Holy Quran.
Mm.
So it was like if there's such a thing as a method, it would be for the people who was in that mindset.
Mm.
And we were a unique set of people such that we would give our life for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Mm.
We were dedicated to him. And he didn't want anybody else to, I guess, take the mantle of our commitment so that we would serve them. And he knew there was a lot of people who wanted us in their group. He wanted us to be independent with our understanding of Allah and the Quran. So he protected us in that way until we was able to learn the Quran for ourselves and stand up on our own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it probably took him, I'm going to say maybe eight years
Mm-hmm.
before he felt like we were ready.
Mm.
And when he was teaching, he didn't have to tweak it from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings, because we were now established in the Holy Quran and the language that it was revealed in. By this time, a few of the believers had begun to study Arabic, and we were always encouraged to pray in the language of the Quran and learn the prayers, learn to recite the Quran. But more importantly, under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we thought we were the superior people. We just had been separated from our true nature and our true selves. So we were, as we came into the understanding of Prophet Muhammad of 1400 years ago and the Sahabas, we thought that was us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say the foundation of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us, which was, it wasn't just a superior attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I think I should say that. But that is one of the main contributing components that he gave us. He gave us a sense of self-esteem.
Right.
He said, but I'm going to say, he always encouraged us to think and to study. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. And he also gave us a moral base, meaning if you want to follow me, you have to put down the cigarettes, you have to put down the drugs, you have to put down the alcohol. You can't be sleeping with the opposite sex unless you're married to them. And those were things we didn't practice. And if we were caught out of order or not practicing that, as his follower, we were put out.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tolerate it.
Right.
So when Imam Muhammad became our leader, the moral base was there. Everything that you need to be a decent religious person, he had prepared us for. He just didn't give us the proper religious knowledge.
Okay.
So when Imam Muhammad became our leader, he let us know that at best, my father was a social reformer. He was not a prophet. The last prophet was Prophet Muhammad of 1400 years ago. And he began to teach us what Prophet Muhammad taught humanity. And that became the cornerstone of his teachings. I have to, and I had heard him before he became our leader. And I knew that he had a different type of teaching that was not based on the understanding that's, I'm going to say, just pure science. A lot of his teaching was pretty much about nature. It was drawing on nature, and it was drawing on creation and scientific understanding. When Imam Muhammad became our leader, he elevated it to the interpretation of how this was in compliance with the nature of our soul. Everything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed to that was physical, Imam Muhammad elevated it to mental and spiritual. The very first, I'm going to say, he taught us for 3 years. He gave us a new definition for man, and that was man means mind.
Okay.
And he used the term that a word is anything that sends a message to the mind. In other words, words were not just what you heard with your ear on the side of your face, but any message that came to your mind was a word. He also put a lot of emphasis on getting rid of all the symbols. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught in a lot of signs and symbols. So he said that the days for symbolism is over with. This is now the day of truth, raw truth, truth for what it is. And I like to say it like this because I think it's a good defense, because we were steeped into our blackness. And we had no shame in the game of calling ourselves black. But Imam Muhammad let it be known that black really means the absorption of light. To say that you are black does not give you any identity. You say, if you say Chinese, you think of culture and you think of how they dress, what they eat, what they speak. If you say Italian, you think of their culture. If you think of, if you say Pakistani, all these things are associated with it. But if you say black, nothing comes into your conscience.
Right. Right.
So he said, when we see black, we should look at it for what it is.
Mm.
And that is the total absorption of light. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It is really the effects of light.
Mm.
And since man means mind,
Mm.
then we should not be considering ourselves as black men, but a black mind.
Mm.
And a black mind is a mind that absorbs light.
Mm-hmm.
And the only light that the mind can absorb is the light of God.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think of black, we should always be thinking in terms of absorbing the light of God.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that white represents the opposite. It rejects light.
Mm.
So to look at a white man is to look at a white mind.
Mm.
And if a white mind rejects the light of God, it is evil.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my father was not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We were wrong in our understanding of what he meant.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Let me interpret that understanding.
Right. Right. Right.
It was only a sign or a symbol, and I'm going to give it to you for what it means.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it was like he did things like that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to bring us into the clarity.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, he could bring in Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
He said Prophet Muhammad was the one who gave us the light of God.
Right.
So now the process begins again
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of how to pursue knowledge, because now we have to interpret everything that we thought we believed under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad into what Imam Muhammad was introducing us to, which was Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm. Mashallah. Mashallah.
So that's kind of like the cornerstone,
Yeah.
of his theology.
Right. Right. And how
Now, go ahead.
And I guess my question just kind of shows how it transitions from his father's theology, which, if I'm understanding you properly, it's just you had the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was preparing for Imam W.D. Muhammad to kind of take this to the next level.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Mashallah.
And
Go ahead.
go ahead. You have a question?
No, I was just going to see. My question was kind of directing back from there. You said in the beginning that Mr. Louis Farrakhan, just was not. I guess he wasn't really quite ready to accept that transition.
Well, let me give you my take on it. I'm going to start.
Yeah.
I don't know what was really in his head.
Right. I
can give you my analysis from it. I think it's an authoritative position, and that is Minister Farrakhan and Minister Omar were very, very close.
Okay.
Remember, Minister Omar was the minister in New York who was Farrakhan's tour guide when he was sent to New York. Mm-hmm. Omar was one of Malcolm's assistants.
Mm-hmm.
So when Farrakhan came to New York, they got real tight. And when Omar was sent to Baltimore, they still was tight. I mean, Omar used to go to New York more than he did Chicago when he was in Baltimore.
Right.
And they was always on the phone with each other because they used to study together and, teach the same subjects and things like that. But Omar was already on the frequency of the mind. Right. Imam Muhammad had told him that. He went to the Imam and told him, I've been teaching this for the last 3 years. Farrakhan was not.
I see. Yeah.
So Omar really fell right in. He was right there with Imam Muhammad. Right. Whereas Farrakhan was still struggling just like everybody else, trying to make the transition. Right. Now, I don't think Farrakhan thought of this on his own, according to what Omar told me. Farrakhan's right-hand man name is Akbar. He used to travel with Minister Farrakhan all while he was speaking on behalf of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was the one who encouraged Farrakhan to come back and help the people who were still stuck in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's understanding. Now, what Minister Farrakhan did was he went to Imam Muhammad. He actually said, I feel hypocrisy in my heart. And I don't want you to think that this is what's going on with me. But I think I want to go back and help those who are stuck in that way of understanding. Imam Muhammad told him, first of all, it's not hypocrisy, because if it was, you wouldn't be coming to me now.
Right.
He said, but I understand what you're saying, but be careful and don't stay out there too long. But do what you have to do. So it was like, in a sense, he had Imam Muhammad's blessings. But I think once he got out there, he got happy with it. And but I'm going to say this. This is like 1979. Right? So about 3.5, 4 years go by. So Farrakhan sort of like revived the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I'm not sure, but I believe that the Million Man March was 1992 or 93, something like
95.
95.
Yeah.
Okay, well, by this time, once he did the Million Man March, you have to realize he had 1 million black men on the White House lawn.
Right.
And all of the national officials left, had something else they had to do outside of Washington on that day. Now, this did not go unnoticed by the Islamic world, the Muslim world. And they recognized the strength that they saw in that black man in America, and it looked like Farrakhan was commanding.
Right.
So they actually came to Minister Farrakhan and asked him to be the international spokesman for Muslims all over the world. But they said, but you have to take your shahada. We want to make sure, because this Farrakhan stuff we talking ain't gonna fly.
Right.
So Mr. Farrakhan said he don't have a problem being the spokesman. He don't have a problem taking his shahada. But they're not going to give him his shahada. He said there's only one man worthy to give me my shahada.
Yeah.
And that's Wallace D. Muhammad. He said, so I'll go to him and I will retake my shahada. And that's what he did.
Yes, I remember that. I remember hearing about it. Yes.
Okay, so that was the background. That was the backstory. Now, I think the Muslims, I think he actually stopped using the name Master Fard Muhammad for about a year or so. And then he went back to it.
Right.
So he fell into the trap. You know, so it was like he would take a shahada, then he would rescind it.
Right.
So that's just pure shirk. And so just between him and Allah, what his judgment will be.
Right.
But I would say this, that Imam Muhammad would say this about Master Fard Muhammad. He said, in as much as he allowed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to teach that Master Fard Muhammad was Allah in person, he said he left enough clues to let him know, meaning Wallace D. Muhammad, that Master Fard Muhammad was not Allah.
Right.
And I think one of the main ones was he never told him what the D meant in his name. And so you have to look at Wallace D. Muhammad. He's a little boy. He's going to his mother and says, Mommy, what does the D mean in my name?
Right.
And she said, my Savior never told us that. So that made him question Farad. Say, if this man is God, he wouldn't leave an unanswered question that I have to ponder, because it's his name too. And so, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had always saw to it that he learned how to read the Holy Quran since he was a little boy, like 10 years old.
Right.
You know, they had a school called the University of Islam, and that's the only school he ever went to. But they had a brother from Palestine who was the Arabic teacher, and he taught him to read the Quran from, childhood. So he could read the Quran in Arabic, and he didn't see no master for Muhammad.
Yeah.
So all the time, he's learning true Islam, straight out of the Quran.
Right.
But he's also coming up in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's house. So he was being groomed for to wear both hats at any given time. So this is how he made the transition. But he actually said that on the Day of Judgment, he wouldn't want to be the one to prosecute Farad Muhammad, because he left enough signs for us to get to where we are. If he didn't, we wouldn't be here. He said, now, yes, on an individual, local level, you can give him a charge. But if you look at the long-term design of what was put into place, it speaks for itself.
Right.
We are no longer a people who are separated from our original nature. Our original nature, this is another thing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to tell us, and that is Islam is not a religion. It's the nature of the human being.
Right.
And this is all we are doing, is reclaiming our original nature when we accept Islam. There was another key point that I wanted to bring out, and that is when Imam Muhammad became our leader, the very first national broadcast, the radio broadcast that he put out, was Surah 2, Ayat 30. When Allah says, I'm going to make a Khalifa in the earth. That was the first national broadcast. He used to have a weekly radio broadcast. Farrakhan used to be the one who gave it on behalf of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But when Imam Muhammad became our leader, Farrakhan didn't have a clue about which way he was going.
Right.
So he began to give the national broadcast and began to teach Farrakhan and the rest of us at the same time. Now, I knew it was something in that message. I knew it was a message in that ayah. I never stopped telling that ayah. But two things that really struck me, and to this day, I'm still trying to decipher it. One of them was, we have never heard the term Khalifa before.
Okay.
We only knew about, who we were, which was the original man. Another thing, where he used the term Iblis, even though it was in the Quran, we didn't know anything about Iblis.
I see.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us about a scientist whose name was Yaqub, who was the father of the devil. So these are new terms, new concepts, and it didn't fit the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching. So he started the wheels turning in the minds of the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I am one, and I just wanted to know, who is this Iblis and who is this Khalifa?
Right.
So he put us on a course to study that. And he must have taught, I know, for another 3 years about the Khalifa. And to make a long story short, I would wrap it up that it was concluded that what he was doing was exchanging our concept of the original man, who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said who we were, to the Khalifa.
Mm-hmm.
And the Khalifa, since man means mind, really was a state of conscience
Mm-hmm.
inside of every black man. We thought it, but where the Imam put it, it's in every human being.
Mm-hmm.
The Khalifa is the God conscience or the taqwa that's in every human being, that's answerable to God, that is doing the work of God in managing the will of God in the earth. And he said the earth we're talking about is not the third planet from the sun. It's this biology.
Okay. The biology of
that
the
it contains. Right, the human being.
I got
This
you.
is the earth. So this is also in keeping with man meaning mind.
Yeah.
So he actually was preparing, and he let us know that after him we don't need a leader. We don't need a personality, an individual concentrating our efforts in one direction, because each one of us will be that leader. And I really took a close look at that, because at the time I was the captain of the FOI. And he actually said, we don't need captains and we don't need lieutenants. What that represents is a centralized authority outside of us that have authority over us. We don't need that. No more do we need the white man telling us what to do or anybody else telling us what to do. What we need to guide us is our God conscience, our Khalifa within us, our taqwa. That is the leader. So I realized I lost my post.
Yeah.
So I wasn't commanding the men anymore.
Right.
I had to command the ones that was within me, all of the urges, the desires within the community of self.
Right.
So I think the more you listen, the more you see where I'm coming from and how I say things the way I say them.
Right. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I'm getting it. I want to bring this point out because I think that this is very important. And all we discussed, that splitting off, I guess, right? You talk about Minister Louis Farrakhan and W.D. Muhammad. In today's society, we always refer to Minister Louis Farrakhan's group as the Nation of Islam. Right.
Yes.
According to the history that you just told me, who is the true Nation of Islam?
We are, in other words, the followers of, well, let me say this. Imam Muhammad literally became the leader, universally recognized as the leader.
Right.
It's like on February the 26th, there was a national convention.
Right.
Minister Farrakhan, Muhammad Ali, Herbert Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad II, Raymond Sharif, all of the leaders, West Coast regional minister, Southern regional minister, Midwest, all of the leaders in the Nation of Islam made bay'ah to Imam Muhammad and recognized and supported him as the leader of the Nation of Islam. So he truly is recognized as the only one has been recognized as the leader of the Nation of Islam. He didn't like that term.
He said he did or didn't?
He did not.
Okay.
Because he thought it was misrepresenting Prophet Muhammad. So he changed the name to the World Community of Islam in the West. And he changed the name of the paper from Muhammad Speaks to Muslim Journal. And you have to understand, he was on a mission to take the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to Prophet Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to redefine everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was a part of the redefining.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, 4 years later, Minister Farrakhan revived the concept of the Nation of Islam
Right.
and began to speak for it. And he have always represented it well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with his representation
Right.
of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's theology was limited to a people who were descendants of the freed slaves who needed to have certain aspects of their human potential restored.
Mm-hmm.
Imam Muhammad recognized it, instituted a method to have the restoration to evolve
Mm-hmm.
into followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
So when other people come along who was not a part of that experience,
Right.
they hear Nation of Islam,
Mm-hmm.
Minister Farrakhan,
Right.
then that's what they're introduced to.
Right. Right.
They don't know the backstory, which is
Right.
what I'm telling you. I mean, there was a whole, literally from 1934 to 1980.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? 45 years. 45 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long the name of the Nation of Islam was. I think Imam Muhammad had it out there, but he dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
Another change he made was we used to call our schools the University of Islam, our
Mm-hmm.
elementary schools.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no. He said, I want to change the name to Clara Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started naming our elementary schools Clara Muhammad educational system.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we're not, the university means just what it says.
Right.
Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had no problem putting big names on little things.
Right. Real quick, you clarify for the people who Sister Clara Muhammad was.
Yes, Sister Clara Muhammad was the mother of Imam Dev Muhammad and the wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes.
She also is the one who encouraged the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to go hear Master Rabb Muhammad. She actually heard him before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a guy hanging on the corner drinking alcohol, like all the rest of us, descendants of the freed slaves.
Right.
But once he went to hear him, he accepted him and he changed. But yes, Sister Clara Muhammad, and this is another thing that Imam Muhammad would tell us about the mother or the woman or the female. They're all the same. But he would say that the female or the mother is the first teacher of everybody who was born.
Right.
Their first teacher is their mother. So that's why he named the school Sister. We call it Sister Clara Muhammad Educational System.
Right.
She was his first teacher.
Right.
And he was now teaching us, but not only what he had to say was respected and accepted by us, but the entire religious world respected and accepted what he had to say.
Right.
When he was speaking to us, he was also speaking to the world at large. They have something, a religious group called a Council of World Religions. They came to Imam Muhammad and asked him. They have like 16 presidents of this Council of World Religions. And they asked Imam Muhammad to be one of those presidents. The Pope of Rome had an interfaith conference. And in the Vatican, he invited the Dalai Lama for the Oriental religious teachings. He invited, I don't know what the name of the Jew was, but it was a well-respected rabbi.
Mm-hmm.
He himself represented the Christians, and he invited Imam Muhammad to represent all of the Muslims, 1.5 billion Muslims all over the planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he recognized who was the real leaders in each aspect of the world religions.
Mm-hmm.
And he recognized, this is the Pope of Rome who recognized Imam Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Also, President Carter, who was the president at the time, I think this is like in 1980 or something like that, he awarded him the Four Freedoms Award from the United States. He was the first Muslim to give the invocation in the Senate. Up until that time, no Muslim had ever given an invocation in the United States Senate. Imam Muhammad did. And they also now recognize, I'm going to say Islam proper in the military. In other words, they actually started having, they had Jewish rabbis, they had Christian ministers, they never had imams.
Right. Yeah.
Until Imam Muhammad. Then they once he did that, they asked him, would he accept? So yes, they sanctioned that, and then they began, and then that's when they also opened up having chaplains and imams in the prisons.
Okay.
All of this is a derivative of Imam Muhammad.
I see. You mentioned something. I remember a brother back in when I was in the Navy, Naval Air, NOB, right, in Norfolk there. One of the first naval chaplains, Imam Noel. I don't know if you know him, Chaplain Noel. He was, but I never thought of it till you just mentioned it, because it was big in the news, like the first naval chaplain. Right. I think he was closely more so affiliated with the WD community.
Correct. Well, that's what happened. They never accepted Islam in the United States system, I'm going to say. That's why I mentioned the prisons. That's why I mentioned the military, all four branches. Right. That's why I mentioned the Senate. That's why I mentioned the recognition of the President of the United States. Colin Powell, I think, was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at that time. And even when they had Gulf War I, before they went into Saddam Hussein, they asked Imam Muhammad first. And they gave him the evidence of what Saddam Hussein was doing. And they showed him. And so he gave them his blessings as well. To defend Saudi Arabia. Because that's what he said. First, Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait. Occupied Kuwait. And he was rallying his forces to get ready to come into Saudi Arabia. Right. And they showed him the evidence. So Imam Muhammad actually let them know that yes, Saudi has a right to defend its borders. But but they didn't do this as a U.S. against Saddam. They did a coalition of NATO forces. So it was a world group that went in to defend Kuwait and give back, push back Saddam Hussein. And they didn't try to do what they call it, regime change or anything. Once they did what they had to do, then they left.
Right.
It was George Bush II who went back and did something else.
Right.
But no, they honored what they said they were going to do. And I think all that's important. And I think it's a part of the legacy of Imam Muhammad that not very many people know about.
Right. Mashallah. Brother, I guess one last question, and you got to excuse me because I got notes here and I bounced back through the conversation.
Yes, sir.
But there's something I think is really important to kind of bring up. At least I see it quite often nowadays, and I'm speaking about this phenomenon. When I was young, new Muslim, or even just the not even practicing Islam or whatever the case may be, I always looked at Muslims being people who, held this strong moral value, right?
Yes,
And you spoke earlier about how that's something that was really pushed during the time of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad,
correct.
right? The moral value and everything else. And, so as I began to practice Islam, that was just one of the things that really, I mean, of course, the theology and everything else, but that was one of the things that also really attracted me to actually more practice Islam and take on my religion of Islam. I do notice, at least nowadays, when I go different places, we find that Muslims, our Muslim brothers and sisters, it seems like this is something that we have gotten away from.
It is.
Yeah.
Would you like me to speak to that?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Give us a little talk on that one.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I was acutely aware of, because being the captain is most people don't know what that means, but I'll give some description to it. One of the things is the chief law enforcer. And our laws were more of a moral nature. And when Imam Muhammad became our leader and he disbanded the FOI and the MGT, meaning the officials or chief law officers, that meant that the true captain or the true Khalifa or the true law enforcer, it should be your God conscience.
Right.
And it was very, very young when Imam Muhammad started teaching. But he knew that he wanted to decentralize the authority in the nation of Islam. One of the things that he recognized was from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it was very central. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the ultimate authority. And he didn't want that to be ascribed to him. And because he knew that was the way of the Prophet Muhammad. So if he was going to establish the way of Prophet Muhammad, he had to let it grow. And it started off, if you didn't have it in you, in your moral base, then you went back to what you had in you. And a lot of people didn't have it in them. It was forced on them.
Right.
So a lot of people went back to doing they went back to drinking. And when they started associating with Muslims from the East, they saw that they smoked. They didn't consider that haram. Like Muhammad said, don't smoke if you want to follow me. But the Muslims from the East smoke. Right. And so they said it's okay to smoke.
Right.
That's another reason why I say Imam Muhammad didn't want us following other people's methods.
Right.
So the moral conscience was somewhat relaxed, but not in the sense of relaxed in the way of toleration. It was relaxed in the sense of the true authority was supposed to be your God conscience.
Yes.
And a lot of people just didn't have it. They dropped it. And they only used what they had in them. And I'm gonna tell you, I was very, very acutely aware of that, because I could see a lot of the things that Imam Muhammad would be teaching. He didn't mean for us to drop the good of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
But what people did was went in and start embracing other people's cultures.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And so the weakness that was in their culture, they accepted that as Islam. And they started dressing like them. They would have a Pakistani stove, a Saudi scarf, I mean, a Nigerian, whatever. All they do was something different.
Right.
I'll tell you what I ascribe that to. And that is, when we came off the plantation, and as descendants of the freed slaves, what was in our conscience was to be anything other than black.
Yeah.
We wanted to be white, really.
Mm-hmm.
But since John Elijah Muhammad said that the white man is the devil, it would be wrong to try to want to be white.
Right, right.
But they never lost their lack of respect for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to be anything other than white.
Mm-hmm.
So they transferred their disrespect for themselves and wanting to be white to wanting to be Arab or wanting to be Pakistani or wanting to be another culture.
Right, right.
And so people began to adopt these misguided concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of them didn't. You have to realize after the Elijah Muhammad, other people would come and they didn't have that discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't enforced.
Right.
See, as in the FOI, we didn't just have captains and lieutenants. We had investigators. We had inspectors.
Right.
You know, we had a whole administrative staff that kept things alive.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas all of this now was a part of the Khalifa that you were supposed to infuse into your psyche.
Right.
Well, I'm going to say I kept it.
Right. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
And, but I didn't know anything else.
Right.
But there was a lot of people who resented it or rejected coming from me. But they didn't show it.
Right.
It's sort of like what you see going on in Russia today. Putin's generals won't tell him what he don't want to hear.
Right.
Well, a lot of that was going on. And when you have centralized authority, that's what you get.
Right.
You don't get the truth. Imam Muhammad knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he's not gonna point you to Prophet Muhammad and did not give you the proper means to get there. And this is something I think is very, very essential in the cornerstone of his teachings. And I'm going to bring out 2 points.
Okay.
And that is, one of them is that Allah has faith in the human being. So how can he be someone who's enforcing on you what Allah already has faith in you to evolve to? So he's really credited with giving you the room to reach Allah the natural way without being an intercessor.
Right.
So he was acutely aware of that. And another thing that I learned, like I told you, I used to teach mathematics. And math is a pretty complex subject, but it's an exact science. And I've learned that a good teacher will never try to teach a student what the teacher understands.
Right. Yes.
A good teacher will lead the student to the doorway of the student's understanding.
Right.
And that's what Imam Muhammad was doing with us. He was leading us to the doorway of our own understanding. He didn't try to give us what he understood. He didn't try to give us what the Arabs understood, what the Pakistanis understood, what any other authority in Islam understood. He led us to the doorway of acquiring our own understanding with respect to Allah. And he gave us those principles.
Inshallah.
So now, if it didn't, some people just don't apply it to themselves.
Right.
You know, I liken it to a family of a big family. You have a lot of children. Some of them learn from the parents more than the others.
Right.
You know, they learn at different paces. They learn different things. They learn different ways. But they eventually get there.
Yes.
And the parent, even though the parent gives out the same information to all of them, the parent cultivates what they see is missing once it reveals itself. And that's how you evolve it.
Right, right. I like that analogy. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, well, you must have children.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's
So you know what you go through.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's good, brother man. That's mashallah. I think that's good for the day. But mashallah, it's always good to kind of they're gonna get that history and pass that history on to other people. And like you say, let people, and I do want to say to the people who may watch this on YouTube, because I think you expressed it a lot. This is according to your understanding, the way you view it.
Yes.
Yes, I just want to stress that. I mean, just
well, and like I said, I should say I am typical, and I was not considered just. I was very, very instrumental at the time. In other words, like I think well, the different points that I bring out that that it was my life.
Yeah,
still is my life. Tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But yes, that's true. But we all studied the same things, and I would just like to say, like, I'm speaking to you from Baltimore.
Right.
But I was the teacher and trainer of the ones in Baltimore.
Exactly.
So everybody in Baltimore really come under me and Omar's understanding.
That's right. Inshallah.
And I would say this too. People used to come from all over the United States to Baltimore to find out how to implement the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
For two reasons. One, because Omar had a chance to express what was in him that he had learned from Malcolm. And I didn't know where he was coming from. All I know was he was the representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
So I supported him in what he was trying to do.
Right. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I also want to add to that, and the reason I'm just to let you know the reason why I said that is because I don't want anyone to understand the reason behind these videos. It's not to disparage anyone. We talked about Louis Farrakhan and everything else, but we got all different types of views, right? And I'm quite sure maybe somebody from the nation who follows, minister, may look at him like what they, but everybody has a different views, and I just don't want people like, but it's good to get all the narratives out there, and I really appreciate you, brother, taking your time, to kind of impart that knowledge and what you have on your mind, and inshallah, I think it'll benefit people quite a bit.
Inshallah.
All right. That being said, we're going to close the session out. Inshallah, another next 2 weeks? You good for that?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
All right. Inshallah. So we'll close up. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. And with that, inshallah, we'll close out and hopefully do another one in 2 weeks.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.